There's a ceiling where people said that was impossible, and all of a sudden human beings are doing it. So now,
Oh, yeah. Isn't there some story about it with a 4-minute mile? Like, once one person broke it, then the next year 20 did?
no,
And
that's
it's like
right.
you literally
2
had
weeks
to...
later, someone
There
broke
you go.
it. And then there's 1,400 people that have broken
There you go,
4-minute mile.
because-
And the doctors were saying it was impossible,
Explain
right?
how that works. Like, what happened?
Well, it's in the field. You have one thing happening. There's a footprint that somebody stepped into in consciousness that says, oh my God, someone else did it. I can do it. At the same time, you're seeing the evidence in three-dimensional reality. There's a footprint in consciousness that the person can step into. It's in the field now. So the same thing's happening in our work. What was taking 3 years to happen 10 years ago or 8 years ago, in 1 week we're seeing people heal from the most incredible health conditions. And in order for that to happen, that's not some miracle. It is a change in gene expression, and that's exactly what got me into measuring all this stuff in the first place. You see someone sitting in a wheelchair for 10 years with MS, and at the end of a weekend workshop, she's walking around the front of the room and hadn't been out of that throne for 10 years. You start thinking that that's just not nothing. Something happened there. She downregulated the gene for MS, and she upregulated the gene for health. And she was taking yoga in a week, and she'd never done that before. So I don't know the timing, because you don't know the individual case. And by the same means, you could have someone doing the work for 6 months. They come to a weekend event. They're practicing. They're ready. Everything lines up, and they have their moment, and their eczema goes away, or their health condition changes dramatically. You know that there was a change in gene expression in that moment.
So do you believe that we create the disease in our body with disease? Do you believe that we create it? Are we accountable?
I do. I have to be very careful about this
Yeah,
response.
I understand it's probably like you can't probably want to box yourself into something, but
But let me say
I
this.
just think that it's really powerful if that's true, because then you're accountable, and that reality is so much different than the, well, but, and then my dad had this, and then, it's powerful.
No,
you got to be held accountable then.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. And I want to say yes because I've witnessed so many incredible things in the last 15 years here. I mean, really incredible things. Stroke patients that were blind, stroke patients that were paralyzed, moving their limbs again, getting out of wheelchairs. I mean, so I see that they can change it, because I think many people, when they realize that they contributed to their health condition, then they understand that on some level they created it, then they could uncreate it, which is the cool part. And that is a practical, simple choice that the person makes, right? But then, the reason I hesitate is because there's exceptions to every rule. I mean, I have my best friend's mother smoked cigarettes and, drank whiskey, and was just one of those mothers that was crazy, and we loved her. But she lived to like 90-something years old, and, you have other people that are, vegetarians, running at 10K every day, doing all the right things, and, they make it to 50.
But that's, like you said, the difference between emotion, right?
Of course.
Maybe, your favorite friend's mom who was living it up, she didn't have any belief in the world that she was going to be sick from it.
Exactly.
And then the person that's a vegetarian and concerned about her health all the time and afraid of getting sick got sick.
You got it. Absolutely, that's the truth. And once you know, you can't not know. So people who don't
100%,
know,
you can't unknow. Agreed.
So people that don't know, then don't understand, like, that there's somehow, you say to a person, hey, why are you so upset today? Why are you so angry today? Why are you so frustrated? Why are you in a bad mood today? And they'll say, oh, I was at this place with this person or these people, and these things happened to me, and now I'm feeling this way, and I'm thinking this way. What they're really saying is, that person or that situation was actually controlling the way they were feeling and thinking. So when things go well in people's lives, they say, hey, I'm in a good mood. When things aren't going well in their life, they say they're in a bad mood. So they're victims to the environment, right? So now, your thoughts and feelings actually produce an effect in your environment. And when you begin to realize that when you change how you think and feel, you change your state of being, when you change your energy, you'll see a change in your life. Now, you got to be able to sustain that. You can't have a great meditation or do something inward and then get up in 5 minutes, go unconscious again. You're taking that And you have to bring it into your life and be able to sustain it. So then the person who's responding consciously or unconsciously to the conditions in their life, they don't know they're being a victim to their life. They're saying, oh, I have this health condition, or this is my life, until you start figuring it out, until you start knowing. So knowledge then becomes the forerunner to experience. So every time you learn something new, you make lots of connections in your brain. Not a little, a lot. An hour of concentration, you'll double the number of connections in your brain, from 1,300 to 2,600. But if you don't think about it, I did
a whole lot of hours of concentrating in my life, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and look, the same. So let me finish that thought. I want to respond to that. So then you're laying down philosophical circuits in your brain. The more you think about it, the more you fire and wire those circuits. The repetition of thinking about it begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain in preparation for an experience. So the more you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, then the how gets easier. So I now know, after all the research, you give people the right scientific information, and science is the contemporary language of mysticism, and they can turn to the person next to them and explain it, because that's what you'll do. I'll say, now explain that. If you can't explain it, it's not wired in your brain.
Tell me what my world looks like to make me go, Danica, you're on the right path.
Yeah, so when I know, I mean, I've been doing this long enough to tell you that nobody changes until they change their energy.
Right.
And when you change your energy, you change your life. It's the way it is. So when you stop using your enemy to reaffirm your addiction to hatred, when you stop using your best friend to reaffirm your addiction to suffering, when you stop using your Facebook to reaffirm your addiction to insecurity, when you stop that whole process and you start going inward and you're no longer relying on those outer things to create those emotions, and you start creating those inner emotional states, you start changing your energy. Now, whatever is no longer a vibrational match between you and that past, present reality is going to fall away.
Right.
They're just going to spiral out because you're no longer putting your attention on them. In other words, the stronger the emotion you feel with some problem in your life, the more you give it your attention. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. You're giving your power away, your life force, your energy to heal to that person or that problem. Lower the volumes of that emotion, you take your attention off that person, you're calling energy back to you. And you're building your own electromagnetic field. We've seen the evidence of that in many events, because when people start overcoming themselves, the first day, not always, but the energy of the room will drop. Why? Because they're drawing from the field to build their own field. Now when they build their own field the next day and the fields start interfering with the people next to them, whoop, the energy in the room just keeps going up, right? So now, there's no longer a vibrational match between you and your coworker, you and your job, you and your boss. Be prepared. Because that old known thing is going to fall away because you're no longer emotionally and energetically connected to it.
Right.
So then when you get in that state, it's not a time to try to put it back together. Because at the same time these things are unraveling and they're moving towards chaos, and chaos is just unpredictable order.
Right.
It's novelty, the newness of an experience that you can't predict is chaos. If you apply the formula, and all potentials in the quantum field exist as electromagnetic potentials. They are possibilities. So now you're going to combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, the thought being the electrical charge, the feeling being the magnetic charge. You begin to open your heart, it begins to produce that broad field. You lay the thought of a new future into there. Now you're changing your energy. When they begin to synchronize coherently, your brain and heart, you got a strong Wi-Fi signal. Because now you're putting out a very laser coherent signal. When there's a synchronization between your energy and that potential that exists in the future, but it really exists in the present moment, because that's where they exist in the quantum. Now you start to see synchronicities in your life because you're synchronized to a future, and they come as opportunities. Wow, that was kind of cool. And those are breadcrumbs from the field, like keep going, you're on to something. So the problem is that people, they do it and then they get up and then they react in traffic, or they get frustrated and they start feeling the emotions of the past.
Why are you talking about me?
They start feeling the emotions of their past, and you know what happens? They just disconnected from the energy of their future, and they're back to the energy of the past. Don't expect anything to change in your life. In fact, expect more reasons to be frustrated. But if you catch yourself, You take a breath, you get back into brain and heart coherence, you tune back in, well, you're not going to go unconscious
That's a
till 8
victory.
o'clock.
Like as you said, that's a victory.
So then the key then is to be able to keep synchronizing to the point where it begins to become familiar. And the word meditation means to become familiar with. So now you're in a new familiar state of being, and people say, I'm really not doing anything. Of course, you're doing the work. You're becoming familiar with a new set of thoughts, new set of intentions, a new set of emotions. Your heart's opening more. Your immune system's up-regulating. Your genes are up-regulating. Your brain and heart are more coherent. Your energy field is bigger. You feel connected more. All these things, you're changing programs. You start seeing those things taking place in your life. You're going to want to do this, right? It's not going to be effort.
100%.
Now, live by the hormones of stress. The hormones of stress cause us to draw from this field and turn it into chemistry, heightens our senses. We become materialists. We narrow our focus on the cause. Now, when we create reality, now we're living in three-dimensional reality. The way we do it is we got to drag our body through space from one point of consciousness where I am to my future, my dreams, another point of consciousness, and that's going to take time. So creating from three-dimensional reality takes time.